Okay, are you ready for some more practice with your fabric and lining up your edges and making everything nice and straight? Today we're going to be using your square cut fabric. This exercise can be tedious, but it really will help you to line up so straight and just keep learning how to keep your fabric straight and consistent throughout the sewing process. Okay, so you will need one of your white squares for this exercise. Okay, for this particular sewing exercise, you will have your fabric. You're going to start at the very edge. You're going to line up the edge of your fabric with the edge of your presser foot. Okay, again, we did this in the previous lesson with your rectangle fabric. This is a 1/4 or a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you're going to line up the edge of your fabric to the edge of your presser foot. Put your presser foot down. And then we are going to simply sew down until we get to the corner. And then I'm going to show you something when we get to the corner, pivoting and keeping the same 1/4 seam allowance that you have all the way around. Okay. Okay, when I get towards the end of my fabric, I'm going to want to stop what looks like 1/4 of an inch away from the end. Okay, so I feel like I'm probably about 1/4 of an inch away, but there is a way to test this. I'm simply going to have my needle drop down into my fabric, going to lift my presser foot, and rotate my fabric. Okay, I can see I'm hanging off a little bit. So what I need to do is reverse that. Use my hand wheel maybe to go one more stitch. Leave my needle down. Pivot my fabric. And now I'm exactly on target again to go 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so here I go again. Yeah, I'm keeping it lined up to the edge of that fabric. Okay, I'm coming to the end of my fabric. I want to stop at about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, I did that last stitch with my hand wheel. Keep the needle down, raise the presser foot, pivot. Okay, again, I'm not quite there, so I'm going to reverse that. Use my hand wheel to do another stitch. And then do that action again. Okay, line it up. Okay, I'm going to do that same process again. Let's see. Drop my needle, rotate. I'm hanging off a bit. Reverse that. And take a stitch. Leave my needle drop down. Press my presser foot up. And drop it again. So we can see that on that last little bit, sometimes you're going to have to use your hand wheel to get that extra stitch. So now this time I'm going to be coming back to where my original stitch was. So I'm going to stop 1/4 of an inch before I get to that original stitch. So I'm going to continue down. Okay, so as you can see, I stopped. I know I'm not quite at the 1/4 yet. I can tell that by looking. So I'm just going to use my hand wheel to get those last couple of stitches. Okay, so at this point, you're going to want to pivot. We've gone all the way around the square. We're going to keep going and going and going. Okay, so I've stopped 1/4 of an inch away from my original stitch line. I left my needle down. I'm going to see if I'm actually 1/4. I actually am. How do I know that? Well, now I have this stitch line that I can see is right up next to my presser foot. So now that is what I'm going to be watching, is my stitch line right up next to my presser foot right there. Okay. So I'm going to continue around this way. I'm keeping that stitch line right up next to that presser foot. Okay, when I get about 1/4 of an inch away, I'm going to stop. So I'm gonna try one stitch there and see what happens. Leave my needle down, rotate, and that did it. Okay, so now I'm lined up again with my stitching to the outside edge of the presser foot. Okay, I'm going to keep doing this process until I reach the very middle. I'll come back and show you my finished product, or maybe I'll come back and show you as I'm finishing. Okay, your squares will get smaller and smaller. Okay, here I am again, almost to my line. It looks like I'm going to probably need 2 stitches for that. Okay, rotate. Oh, look, I'm not quite there, so I'm going to twirl that back again and give it one more stitch. Okay, so when I did that, I'm just slightly over the line. I'll just adjust it as I sew. That does happen. You're not going to always land exactly where you need to be. So I'm going to keep going around. I'm always going to use my previous stitching that I'm lining it up to the outside edge of the presser foot. Okay, so I am closing up a little bit of my square left. Okay, you can see it gets shorter and shorter as you go. Okay, there will get to be a point where you can't go any further. Okay, probably using the hand wheel more as you continue towards the center. Okay. All right, and hopefully you're finding got some straight stitching going on. Okay, I think I'm almost done with this. Maybe one more little line. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. Okay, so there is my finished result. Okay, everything should be nice and even. Okay, so it looks kind of like a little maze going through, and yeah, that was a lot of work, but it does help to get you sewing straight.